Hey folks, today's coding interview question is the following. But before I get there, you may wonder why I'm focusing on actual programming as opposed to a classic DevOps SRE type questions. That's because as a DevOps person or an SRE, you would expect it to have some knowledge of software engineering or programming in general. As you get more and more senior, that expectation gets much more stringent. In fact, the majority of um, quality SREs are also software engineers because that's kind of a requirement of being a good one, right? Because you're going to be sitting with developers, helping them bring code to production and whatnot. So if you are not a software developer yourself, you cannot support the squads end to end. So that's why I'm also focusing on a little bit on the coding part of it, programming part of it. Now, before I get to the question, let's read the question first. Create an interface called CarRental. It will only have one method called rent, and then it will called rent. And then the third thing is go ahead and in the main function, go ahead and call one CarRental, and you rent out a car of your choice. Now, before I get to the coding part, what is an interface? Interface is basically a contract. So in real life, if you go to a car rental, you don't care how they get their car, you don't care what happens on their screen, you don't care how they do what they do. All you need from them is, hey, here's my credit card, here's my driver's license, get me a car that I want, right? That's an interface because all the hard work is saved and behind the scene, right? So in a SRE or a programming point of view, interface is similar. Basically, what you're saying is, I'm going to implement something that will only do the work I need it to do, and how it gets done behind the scene is not my problem. So, for example, a classic case could be an application could be calling an API call, and that API will just do what the application calls is asking for to the API call, and you don't really care behind the scene what happens. Another example would be like a database. If you want to make a database call, you don't care how the database part of the code does what you need it to do. If you say, I'm gonna give you a query, give me the results. All you want an interface with the database part that says, here's a query, give me the result, right? That's an interface. So yeah, anyway, that's really what that is. So let's go to the coding part. So now you can choose your own language. If you already know of a language that you're good at, go ahead and use that. Nobody will in a coding interview will dictate what language you use. However, if you're learning a new one, or if you're not good at any language, I would highly recommend to you to learn Golang because first of all, it's fast and it's easy to learn, but also with startups, it's the most common language there is. So if you're going to work for a small company, which is the case in 60, 70, 80% of the cases, and you will see that most of them use Golang for their own programming. So might as well learn this language as opposed to some other language. Okay, let's get started. So in Golang, we start with package main, then we import packages that we need. In our case, we're going to import FMT because that's going to let us print stuff on the screen. Now, when you do an interface, there are four parts that you have to remember. One is you have to define the interface type. You have to define define a type that is the data structure. In our case, it will just be the model of the car, and you will see what I'm talking about. Third thing is you can implement the methods, uh, and that's super important. I'll explain why in a second. And the fourth part is actually writing the main function that does the work, right? So um, the interface in Golang is basically a set of agreed upon method. That's all it is. And you will see that in live in just a second, because in our requirement, we said it will implement a method called rent. As long as the interface has a method implemented called rent, that is the interface that we're talking about. So that's the first thing. So let's drag this all out, right? Is that the comment? I think that's the comment. So four parts. 1, define the interface type. 2, define a data structure type. 3, implement the methods. In our case, it's just one. In this case, just one called rent. And fourth part is use the interface in the main function. So I'll just call it func because that's what's called in Golang. Okay, so first part, define a interface type. I'm going to call it CarRental, and it will be of type interface. And this is the magic of Golang. Golang already has a type called interface natively supported, so you can just say this is an interface type. In other language, you may have to actually sort and build it all up with polymorphism and whatnot. So in Golang, it's already there. Okay, so now we have that, and we will say this only has one method, rent. That's all it has. So that is part 1 of our code. This is done. Now next, we're going to define the data structure. In our case, it's a model of a car. That's all it is. It's going to be just a struct. So type car model, and this is a struct. Struct is basically in Pascal, my first language that I learned. It's a record. Basically, it combines different kinds of native data types into one. So you can think of JSON, whatnot, right? Basically, it has more than one type in one type. In our case, it's just going to have one field, one item, which is model, and this will be of string type. So this is a record, a struct that only has one field in it. Okay, so that is done. That's the second part. Third part, we will implement the actual rent method. Now, before I get to that, when we define method, generally speaking, it needs a method receiver, and I'll show you what that means. That's what distinguishes it from a normal function. So here, func, even though it's called func, it's actually a method, and you know that because it gets the type before the name of the function. So here in this case, we'll call it CM, and it will receive an argument of car model type. Okay, and this is before the function name appears in the definition, right? In normal function, this will not be there, and it will have the argument inside the rent. That's how it's different. That's how a method is different. Okay, we have that. Now all we're going to do is print out the model of the car. Print line. I'm going to say car model rented is, and we will say, now we're going to print out CM. CM, remember, is a car model. Car model only has one field, model. So we're just going to print the model name. Okay, so that finishes up our third part, implement the method. Now we're going to do we can actually use this. We're going to say func, which is the main function. No arguments needed. First, we're going to define a variable my car, and it is of type car. One thing to notice, you see, this is the interface, right? So far, none of these has anything to do with the interface. This could have been anything. Okay? There's no mention, there's no reference of these data structure and these methods about the interface. The interface is only going to come into play here in the main function. Something to pay attention to. My car is of car rental, right? That is its type. Now we're going to give it a value. We're going to say my car equals car model, and it has model. I wonder, is that how it's done? Let's see, this may be wrong. Give me a second. I'm gonna just check it out. Model Camry, let's say. This could be wrong. Let's see the complaint. Yep, it does complain. But before I fix that out, let me just do this. Let me just do my car. That's the last bit. My car rent. That's all we're gonna do. But here, there's a problem. My car equals car model, missing comma in a composite literal. Car, my car equals car model. And it should be equals. Expected. Okay, let's see. That is not model equals Camry, car model. I wonder if I just put Camry in there and that will work. Nope, still doesn't work. Undefined. Oh, whenever it says undefined, it means that it thinks it's a variable when it's not. That is not complaining, so that may work. Give it a shot. Let's save that. And now this is in directory here. Okay. I'm going to say go run main.go to actually run the program. Boom, that worked. So to summarize what happened here, we define an interface type, we define data structure, we define the method, and we give one instance of the car rental, and we gave the value for the data structure, and then we call the method over here. The magical thing here is the only connection between any of the rest of the code to the interface is here. That's it. Basically, that's the connection between everything else and calling the rental, right? Which kind of makes sense, right? Because if you are going to car rental, all you need to give them is, hey, I need a Camry, right? And that's what you got. Hope you found this useful. If you did, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next lecture.